Greetings everyone, and welcome to this deep dive into the world of the samurai, Japan's legendary warrior class, whose legacy spans centuries and continues to captivate us today. If you're expecting a tale of just swords and honor, buckle up, because the reality is far more complex, rooted in historical records, archaeological evidence, and fascinating personal stories that reveal both their brilliance and their struggles. Let's explore the origins of the samurai, what you need to know about their rise and fall, and some incredible lives that shaped their mythos, all backed by what we've learned from history. The samurai didn't just appear out of nowhere. Their story begins in Japan's Heian period, around the late 8th century, when the central government in Kyoto started losing its grip. Landowners in the provinces needed protection from bandits, rival clans, and even rebellious locals. Enter the early warriors, armed retainers, hired to guard estates. The term samurai itself comes from the Japanese verb saburao, meaning to serve. And that's exactly what these guys did at first. They served the powerful. By the 10th century, we see evidence of this in texts like the Konjaku Monogatari, a collection of tales that describes provincial warriors fighting for their lords. Archaeological digs, like those at the Fujiwara clan's sites in northern Japan, have uncovered weapons and armor from this time. Simple but effective swords and bows, showing these weren't yet the ornate katanas we imagine. Fast forward to the 12th century and things get serious. The Genpei War, from 1180 to 1185, pits two major clans, the Taira and the Minamoto, against each other for control of Japan. This is where the samurai really take center stage. The tale of the Hiker, a historical epic written shortly after, gives us a first-hand look at the battles, and it's brutal, archers on horseback, naval clashes, and a code of loyalty starting to form. The Minamoto win, and their leader, Minamoto no Yoritomo, becomes Japan's first shogun in 1192, establishing the Kamakura shogunate. This is a turning point. The samurai aren't just hired muscle anymore, they're a ruling class. Yoritomo's laws, like the Goseibai Shikimoku from 1232, codify their rights and duties. And we've got surviving copies of these documents, showing how they were expected to manage land, collect taxes, and yes, fight when called upon. So, what did it mean to be a samurai? By the Kamakura period, they were a hereditary elite, making up about 5 to 10% of Japan's population. Estimates come from tax records and clan registries. They lived by Bushido, the way of the warrior, though that term wasn't formalized until much later. In practice, it meant loyalty to their lord, skill in combat, and a readiness to die. Training started young. Boys as early as 5 learned archery and horsemanship, as described in diaries like those of the Hojo clan. Their iconic weapon, the katana, evolved over time. Early swords from the 12th century, found in tombs, were straighter. But by the 14th century, metallurgy had advanced, and the curved, razor-sharp katana we know emerged, tested, according to legend, on condemned criminals to prove its edge. But the samurai weren't invincible. The 13th century brought the Mongol invasions, 1274 and 1281, when Kublai Khan's forces tried to conquer Japan. The scrolls of the Mongol invasion, commissioned by a samurai named Takazaki Suenaga, depict these battles in vivid detail, showing samurai fighting alongside conscripted peasants against a technologically superior enemy. They won thanks partly to typhoons, later called kamikaze or divine winds, but it exposed their weaknesses. The Kamakura shogunate couldn't pay its warriors adequately afterward, leading to unrest and its eventual collapse in 1333. The chaos that followed ushered in the Sengoku period, the Warring States era from the late 15th to late 16th century. This was peak samurai, hundreds of warlords, or daimyo, battling for dominance. Castles like Himeji, still standing today, show their engineering prowess, while weapons caches reveal the shift to firearms after Portuguese traders introduced them in 1543. The Shinsho Koki, a chronicle of the warlord Oda Nobunaga, describes how he used arquebuses to crush cavalry at the Battle of Nagashino in 1575, a turning point in samurai warfare. Now let's talk about some real samurai who bring this history to life. Take Minamoto no Yoshitsune, a hero of the Genpei War. Born in 1159, he was a tactical genius. His victory at Dan no Ura in 1185, sinking the Taira fleet, is detailed in the Tale of the Haiku, but his story's tragic. His brother, Yoritomo, the shogun, grew jealous and hunted him down. Yoshitsune died in 1189, possibly by his own hand, surrounded by enemies. His grave in Hiraizumi has been excavated, confirming a warrior's burial with armor fragments. Then there's Miyamoto Musashi, the ultimate lone wolf. Born in 1584, he fought his first duel at 13 and claimed over 60 victories in his life. His Book of Five Rings, written in 1645, blends swordsmanship with philosophy and is still studied today. Evidence of his duels comes from contemporary accounts, like those of the Yoshioka clan, whom he famously defeated in Kyoto. The samurai's end came in the 19th century. After Tokugawa Ieyasu unified Japan in 1603, establishing the Edo period, peace reigned for over 250 years. Samurai became bureaucrats, not fighters. Many turned to poetry or tea ceremonies, as seen in their surviving haiku collections. But when Commodore Perry's ships forced Japan open in 1853, everything changed. The Meiji Restoration of 1868 abolished the samurai class. The Hatto Rei Edict banned sword carrying, and photos from the time show ex-samurai in Western suits, a stark shift. Some rebelled like Saigo Takamori, the last samurai who led the Satsuma Rebellion in 1877 and died fighting modern conscripts armed with rifles. His stories confirmed by government records and battlefield relics. So what's the takeaway? The samurai were more than warriors. They were a culture, a system, shaped by war and peace alike. From their gritty beginnings to their dramatic end, their lives, documented in scrolls, graves, and steel, tell a story of adaptability, loyalty, and human complexity. Thanks for joining me on this journey through their world. Let me know what you think, and I'll catch you in the next one.